Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. Thank you for joining me in this episode, and some of you may be saying, Nora, where have you been? That is an explanation that I am happy to give, and I will do so very shortly. But in this episode, I want to talk about the politicizing of Black distress. And this topic comes to mind because when I'm watching the political pundits and talking heads, so often, and not just talking heads, not just people who are students of politics, but even those in our community from amongst our own people. I specifically am talking about Black people, but any of us really who are asserting our voice into the conversation when it comes to voting and which party or which candidate we should vote for. And while in this conversation, I'm not to tell you who I think you should vote for. That's not the direction I'm going in this episode. But what I want to talk about is the way that our experiences, our distress, our suffering, our hardships are really used in political strategies to, convey to us as voters why this party or this candidate is the one that we should support. And I recognize that, it is a smart strategy for anybody who's seeking the vote or support of the Black community. But the way that they approach us and the language that they use when they talk to us, I think it's certainly, we should be questioning it, or I think we should be observant of the language because it speaks to the lack of control and the lack of unity that we have with each other. And frankly, we are not defining our own agendas, and we can't really define our own agendas. I mean, we can meet in our little pockets and we can say, okay, if this candidate speaks towards this in a favorable way, they have my support. Or if this party speaks to this singular issue or couple issues, then they have my support. But again, this is us talking in our pockets and talking in our groups. And we don't really have a strong collective voice. And I'm glad that we're having any conversation about it to show that we are, somewhat conscious and aware of what's happening. But we not that our people are a monolith, not that we, all think the same thing, but we do not have a Black agenda. And because we don't have collectively I'm talking about, because we don't have a Black agenda, we are not in control. We are not in control because we don't have unity. And as we've seen, every 2 years or every 4 years, when elections are coming around, when candidates are out stumping, knocking on doors and seeking our support, because we do not have unity amongst ourselves, in our communities, in our families. Without unity, we simply become tools or implements, and we're used by people who do have unity, who do have control. And their unity and their control is to materialize their agendas. And in them materializing their agendas, if we are favorable, if we are pliant or compliant, then maybe we can get a crumb or a treat here or there. But I think about what we could accomplish if we operated with unity. And this conversation of our people working with unity is something that you may hear over and over and over again, because we don't have unity and we don't operate with unity. And I know it could sound redundant. This is something I talk about frequently on this podcast. It's because I know it's something that we lack. And I think to some extent we don't know what it means to have unity. I think sometimes we may mistake unity for us all being in agreement, us all agreeing on everything. I mean, if you were raised with siblings, you don't always agree. But if someone was come knock on your door or present an intrusion, then you and your sibling, you and your spouse, you and your children would all understand that it's us against them. And now, I don't mean that we are necessarily against anyone or should be against anyone in our unity. But in our unity, we should be for ourselves, and we should be identifying those issues that we have the most in common, and we should be organizing around those needs that we have the most in common. And as we organize around our needs, not about others' needs, not about others' agendas, not about the goals of others, but about those things that are impacting us the most, those issues that are most in need of change, if we organize around that and organize around it, unify around it, build around it, solve problems around these issues, then when people come to us and they're looking for our support, then they're not treating us like children. And quite frankly, people treat us like children. And very well, they should. And you may say, boy, Sister Nora, you're really being harsh. But I'm speaking to the reality that our people are experiencing here. And if people who don't control anything, who are not unified, who are not operating in a unity and creating change and making time and making the difference for themselves, then others will come and make difference for themselves. And that'll be with our support or endorsement or around our support and endorsement. And so what more powerful position could we be in if we did work collectively, if we did work in unity, if we did decide what our agenda is? Boy, that is a much more powerful position, but it can't come just because we're talking what our agenda is. It can't come just because of us talking, but because of us actually actualizing the solutions to the issues that we're facing. For too long, we have been people who just talk, and we talk about these issues inside and out. And we have some of the best speakers, some of the best thinkers, but they don't put their minds together to solve the problem. I think in part because, quite frankly, they make more money talking about the problem, defining the problem, redefining the problem, than actually implementing a solution. I think in some cases, they quite frankly don't know what the solution is, and perhaps pride and ego will keep them from seeking insight from those who have shown to have the solution. However, in this posture and in this position, we will continue to be an unserious people, to be people who are not taken seriously, and will be offered crumbs and treats and a pat on the head. But I think that after the time that we've put in this nation, and showing that we do have qualified people among us to build, to solve problems. I mean, we do it for others, and why can't we take those same skills and resources and know-how and turn in on ourselves and build up for ourselves? So then when people are coming into our community and saying, can I have your support? Then we can stand to the side and say, well, look, this is what we're doing. How are you going to add to what we're doing for ourselves? And without, a strong structure, without a strong unity, then we are always in the position of having our head down with our hand out instead of having our head up with a strong handshake instead of our hand out looking for someone to put something in it. There is so much power in doing for ourselves. And people have to meet us and come address us in a much different way than with the patronizing posture that they can come to us. And so there's power in unity. And I hope that we will begin to reflect on this, or we'll just be having every 2 years and every 4 years the same conversation over and over. Our hardship, our distress, the difficulties that our people are facing continues to be politicized. I mean, we talk about criminal justice reform. We talk about the infant mortality rate, the maternal mortality rate. We're talking about clean water. We're talking about public safety and affordable housing. And for how many decades have these been our issues? And in what way are we looking to address these ourselves so that when others come, they can help, but they aren't the solution? We can't keep looking for Superman. We have to look inward, and the education that we've obtained, the skills that we've learned, turn that inward, start building and doing for self, and then others will come to us seeking our permission. It's different when someone's seeking your consent or seeking permission than someone just telling you what it is and what's going to happen. And so this is a much more dignified posture. And I hope that we can just mature, and grow as a people. And we see the power of unity all over, all around us. And we're eager to attach ourselves into other people's unity. But until people see us uniting for ourselves and doing for self, we really won't be taken seriously, nor do we deserve to be. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Until next time, stay in peace.
We were brought here as a piece of property. And to keep that piece of property, it is to not allow the property to know the value of the property. What I mean by that, if you had known the history of yourself, you would not have been made a slave. And you won't be a slave now if you have a knowledge of yourself. It's hard to enslave a person that have equal knowledge with you. You just can't do it. And so this knowledge of yourself is the thing that will free you from what you have been suffering from.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, norahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@norahspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.